This is our presentation on the environmental costs of mountaintop mining valley fill operations for aquatic ecosystems of the Central Appalachians. My name is Kevin Borbath, and later on I'll be joined by Mackenzie, Sheridan, Lauren, Blake, and Kendall. What is mountaintop removal and who does it? Mountaintop removal is the process of extracting coal pockets from the top of a mountain by removing part of the land. This process is regulated by the United States Department of the Interior and the United States Environmental Protection Agency. The companies that partake in mountaintop removal often operate within very strict guidelines. Because of that, both of these agencies step in at certain times to maintain legality among them. The Environmental Protection Agency regulates the companies more frequently than the Department of the Interior, but both play an important role in regulation.
The effects of MTVF are extensive, especially for aquatic ecosystems. When the mining waste is deposited into valleys and streams, the ecosystem suffers an immediate loss of habitat. In addition, erosion and runoff from the mining debris causes chemical imbalance in the remaining water systems. Invertebrate species affected include amphipods, isopods, copepods, cladocerans, and ostracods. These are all very abundant and crucial to headwater streams. Vertebrate species affected include minnows, darters, sculpins, some salmonoids, and salamanders. Insect populations and food webs can also be disturbed. Headwater streams often have the most aquatic biodiversity, so disruption in these areas can prove to be catastrophic. In fact, several species are only found in the headwater tributaries. Several endangered species live in the Appalachian region and can be particularly sensitive to changes in water quality, such as salamanders, which are very important to the overall ecosystem. Disturbances in headwater regions leads to changes everywhere else in the watershed, affecting many aquatic species. Coal mining waste causes chemical and physical changes to the water systems, changes that often prove deadly to aquatic life.
While there are several local impacts on mountaintop removal and MTVF, the three main impacts are lost streams, lost soils, and altered hydrology. The first main way that local environments are impacted is by lost streams. Mining companies begin by setting up a sediment pond, which replaces a portion of the draining stream. Through this process, the headstream will be eliminated. This will cause the water to flow through the rocks and into the settling pond. The next way that environments are impacted is by lost soils, which is one of the longest lasting impacts. Soil loss can be caused by a number of things, mainly through erosion, burial within overburden, and oxidation by soil microbes. The last way is by altered hydrology. Compared to untouched surfaces in the forest, surface mined watershed yields significantly more water. This is because the machinery used during the processes causes the soil to become more porous.
In terms of the far-reaching environmental impacts of the mountaintop removal and MTVF, one of the biggest impacts is seeing the continued export of sediments and dissolved substances. So when this occurs, the sediments and dissolved substances make their way through the waterways, not only affecting the immediate region, but also just the larger scale regions, so it can be seen across state lines and miles away from the mining sites. It also, as it continues, it changes the contour of the valleys and watersheds. The water, it just packs down the soil, making it much harder for water to go through, and it just changes the contour completely, which can be dangerous in its own way. If the watershed continues to disintegrate, it will no longer serve its purpose and more flooding will occur. There's also an increased sulfate concentration and more acidification of the streams, just seen by the dissolved substances, which can be seen in all of the water. And what this means for us is that the sulfate concentrations and the acidification of the streams just make the water more harmful, and just because of the ions that are distributed in the water, making it much less desirable and harmful. This figure is just a series of images which shows a comparison of unmined landscape next to reclamation land sites. So you can see in A, it is very green, very healthy, and there are lots of mountain, lots of ridges. However, in B, that is an area that is now a reclamation site, so it was previously used in mining, or mining was nearby. It's not as green. It's a lot flatter because the soil has just been compacted down. And then in C, you can also see the water is running freely. There's a lot of growth around it, whereas compared to D, there's some greenery near where the water is closest. However, most of it is just rocks, very dark, no growing.
Reclamation, remediation, and mitigation are all methods used to reduce the harmful effects of mountaintop mining and valley fill operations on ecosystems surrounding them. Some ways that they can do this are compensatory mitigation, stream creation, and the NPDES permit violations. Compensatory mitigation are attempts to create streams on mining sites and restoration of ecosystems harmed by these operations. If stream habitats are destroyed, they must find a way to re-establish or restore the affected habitat. Stream creation is the attempt to recreate a former stream, usually by recreating the former physical characteristics of that stream. This may include land leveling and drain reconfiguration for the mines. Though that they may be similar, they will not be able to completely replace the original habitat. NPDES permit violations. The NPDES stands for National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. Many times, multiple permits will be issued to the same location for operations. This leads to an overall destruction of these habitats. And fines for violating these permits are usually minuscule compared to the revenue generated by these operations. So there are some downfalls to the methods used to reduce the harm to these habitats. The mitigation and restoration plans for habitats altered have not used or may not have access to resources that can accurately calculate ecological function. Stream creation and restoration may fill the place of the prior stream, but usually every aspect of that stream ecosystem has already been altered or tarnished to a point of no return in a way. Mitigation plans tend to focus more on filling the place of the stream, not restoring the actual habitat. It's often for these attempts to further harm the ecosystem, rather than restore and actually strengthen it.
After looking at all of the information, it is clear that mountaintop removal, or MTBF, has a severe and lasting impact on the Central Appalachian region, as streams are permanently lost in the process and rivers are also polluted. As these rivers and streams that are below the mine sites are polluted, it severely reduces the water quality and becomes toxic to aquatic life. And although there have been efforts to restore these sites, they have not yet been effective in reducing the water pollution or restoring any of the plant life that has been affected. Currently, while there are some efforts that have attempted to solve the issue of pollution in these rivers and mining sites, it is clearly not enough, as little progress has been made towards reclaiming these sites. Therefore, in order to compensate for the streams that were lost and the pollution that has impacted so many of these water sources, a thorough analysis of the groundwater and surface water should be conducted by scientists so that they are able to observe the interactions that occur within that ecosystem. Additionally, the deficiencies that have been occurring within the mitigation efforts could be resolved if scientists took an approach different from the current NCD scheme, where the ecological factors that determine the success of a channel can be taken into consideration so that these channels can be successfully restored.